afternoon, everybody.
No, it's not.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Fundy Albert Council Committee of the whole for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at the Steve's House Museum. And before we get going, I'd like to welcome a new face at the front of the table, our Ms. Kim Gears, our new clerk. So thank you, Kim. So the first order of business is the adoption of the agenda. I'd like to make a proposal for an amendment to the agenda in a closed session, adding an additional item, Local Governance Act, Section 68J, which is labor and employment matters. So if there's unanimous agreement of the council members, we'll add that. Very good. So I'd like to accept the motion for the adoption of the agenda as modified. Councillor Eldekin, seconded by Councillor Land. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion adopted unanimously. So the next one on the agenda is conflict of interest declarations. And as we have a new member of our team here at the front table, I thought it actually would be useful for all of us just to recap our obligations that we have to the conflict of interest requirements that are laid out in legislation. And in particular, the Local Governance Act, Part 8, is the legislation that governs conflict of interest for those of us here at the, or most of us here at the table. And in fact, the applicability of the conflict of interest requirements applies not only to council members. So each of us around the table, clearly the law applies, but the law also applies to what are referred to as senior officers of the municipality. And those senior officers are the clerk, the treasurer, the chief administrative officer, and even the fire chiefs are actually considered to be senior officers under the conflict of interest rules. And so those legislative requirements apply to all of us and our linkages with our family associates, who include our spouse, child, parent, and siblings. And so what the law requires us to do, and we've done this, I think most of us at least have, is there's a requirement to disclose any actual or potential conflicts of interest. And we do this in two ways. One, we do it through a formal written statement, where if we have any actual or potential conflicts of interest, we're allowed to, and it's a very formal thing in accordance with regulations, make a statement of what those conflicts are, and that needs to be filed with the clerk. And those statements shall be made available for examination by the public, by the way, at any time during office hours at the office of the clerk. And then there's another requirement, of course, which is what we're about to do on the agenda, is at any particular meeting, we also will have the same kind of ask, are there any conflicts in the context of the agenda for tonight? So I think that's a useful reminder. And the penalties, by the way, are quite severe under the law. They go up to upwards and over $20,000 for some fines. So I think it was just useful to have some of that background. So what I would like to do is just ask, is there anybody who has any conflicts of interest to declare for tonight's meeting? And so that would include actually our senior officers at the table, always. Very good. None. We'll move on now to public presentations. And so we have 2 5-minute public presentations, and then there's been one sign up for a 2-minute. We'll start with the 5-minute public presentations first. And so I'd like to welcome Mark Legier from the Southeast Regional Service Commission. He's the Regional Trails Coordinator. And Mark is going to provide us some information on strategic planning, I think.
Recreation master.
Recreation master plan. Thank you.
Hi, folks. Thanks for council for the opportunity to address you today and talk about, I think, recommendation, I think, in talking to community members, working directly with so many groups and organizations, individuals, in my role with the trail coordinator. A real opportunity to address some gaps and some changes in governance regionally and provincially, because there's so much great work going on in Bundy Albert around tourism and recreation. But with the municipal reform and automation and council, I think there might be an opportunity for everybody to get on the same page in terms of what's been going on, what are the hopes and goals of the community, and how we can kind of bring it together. So this kind of came out of a couple of different things that came up. So my main role with the Regional Service Commission is development of the Shoreline Trail and the Regional Trail Network. So connecting all municipalities in the region via Rise Trail. My mandate when it started, and we've at the commission in support of our board, we've been successful in moving that mandate forward. Bundy Albert, I know well. I've worked in this community for well over a decade now. I land out here. I love Alton County, but this area has an overwhelm of assets and opportunity, and therefore it's really hard to decide what to focus on. There's also diverse needs and wants in the community. There's this huge network of dedicated volunteers and culture of leadership at the grassroots level. And there's also a bunch of historic knowledge about how to do tourism and recreation here and what all the wonderful things that can happen in this area. And then also a lot of strategies and older plans for making the most of these opportunities. So really what I wanted to outline today as quickly as possible is I think there's an opportunity with all the things that have changed in recent years, is there's an opportunity to align community interests with organizational realities, so market demands in terms of tourism and local wants and needs for recreation. And hopefully if all that can come together, it will position the municipality better and the community better to make the most of funding opportunities, I think. Next slide. A couple of different meetings that I've had, it's come up that there's been so much work that has happened over the years. I know I used to work for the park a number of years back, and the SET program, ALMA, and I wasn't intimately involved with it, but I that was just as an example. So sort of backtrack one little bit. Really what taking stock here and where we're coming from is really looking at our assets, both organizations and physical assets, historical assets, and looking at what's market ready, what's ready for investment, where there's opportunities or sites where there are may or may not be plans, but there certainly is potential, and then looking at needs and opportunities. Along with that, looking at the organizations that exist, because I think those are what will make realities and hopes, dreams come true, whether it's the Tourism Association, Brent Bundy, CCRC, sitting in Steve's house here. There's wonderful historical groups in the community. This place, Steve's House Museum, Albert County Museum, and the Railway Museum. We also have groups, trail groups. We have the Quad Low Quad Group, we have Quad NV, we have Snowmobile stakeholders, the mountain bikes groups operating in the community, and then now the RSC has an increased role in tourism and recreation. And then the municipality at the end of the day has a very, perhaps the most important, but it's a lot to coordinate. And then you add in province of New Brunswick and its goals and priorities, and the federal government and the opportunities that exist there. So the next slide, not going to get into the whole detail, but just a table, and it's just as an example of how we can kind of break out things in this community. So as I said, if you were to break out, market ready, projects and organizations that are ready for investment, meaning they have a plan or they have goals and they've clearly articulated them, or projects they would like to do, and the only thing stopping them from doing it is money, maybe. Then we have wonderful sites. I'll name a couple here, but we have non-formal plans, but we have Dennis Beach, Waterside Beach, issues at both of those locations, and management plans. We have Sheppey Mountain, which is a site that gets used, but not really any formal management plan. And then I can go on for days, but you can see them all there, and I encourage you to take a look. But and this is not an exhaustive list. This is a list of some things that come up in conversations I've been a part of. Then you also have the needs and opportunities side, whereas we're talking about, there's always a call for roads and other critical connections outside of the 915 and 114. Certainly staffing and housing challenges, and transportation is a challenge. There's opportunities for winter shoulder season growth, both from a tourism perspective and recreation. There's certainly always a need for more accommodations and accommodation types for visitors. And even things like public EV chargers, there's been investments in. These are all things that kind of feed into people recreating here, people coming from outside of the community and recreating, staying, and just where I'm putting this out there is kind of a way to start thinking about how to organize ourselves, because what first started my thinking around this and recommending was that, the ATV group, the railway group, and Regional Service Commission all had some sort of interest on a railway. And then the municipality, there was a presentation that came from the World Quad Group, Quad ND, and there's all these groups with all these interests, and no one was really talking. And I don't say that it's not anybody's fault. It was not intended, nobody was doing anything nefarious, but there's just so many things going on that I think there's a need. I'm recommending and suggesting that it may be time to consolidate as much as we can what is going on in the community, and prioritizing and identifying which things should move forward, where there's alignment, and go to the next slide. Reviewing and looking at strategies, projects, updates, historic ones, ongoing, where have there been successes and challenges. I think there's a need to identify and define organizations' mandates. Certainly lots of organizations. The RSC would be one of them, where we might assume that everybody knows what we do and what we're supposed to do. But that's certainly not the case with the RSC. But a document that puts all of this together, so we're all in have at least an understanding of what's going on. And then that strategic plan could also define goals and actions, categorize assets, prioritize assets based on maybe visitation potential, and consider spatial distribution, like where these assets exist, co-benefits. This type of thing is here and it's invested in, what else could benefit? But really updating and setting priorities as a municipality and making sure we're aligning with municipal goals and needs, and looking at opportunities for strategic partnerships. So what I mean by that is, as I discussed with staff about presenting this recommendation, I talked to a lot of different people and organizations, and one of them was the Rocks, and I said, hey, as a stakeholder here, would you invest, do you willing to contribute to the development of a strategic plan? And they said, yeah, I would expect the part would be at least open to a discussion. There is work currently going on within the RSC around tourism and recreation that can contribute to this. And certainly there's resources myself and others within the RSC contribute as a stakeholder in planning. So that was my goal here for today, to kind of stimulate the discussion. As a proponent for a big project, the Shoreline Trail through the municipality, I know that it would help me in the work that I do, and the people that I've talked to have, for the most part, agree that this is something that would be good to the community at large.
To Mark. Is there anybody around the table who has a comment?
I just have a couple of comments. I appreciate the fact that you identified that there's some assets in our volunteer groups in the community. And one that comes to mind is one that they're currently doing now, which is the snowmobile or the four-wheeler train. So I think they have got partnership there because they have the Snowmobile Association and a four-wheeler club on the same page with as far as the trails goes. The CCRC has played a big part in that, and the Fundy Curling Club as well. In addition, it's being funded by the community. The tickets that we sell are for that particular project. So, you know, there's a lot of things that are being done not only by the volunteers, but they're being funded by the community to get it done. So they are important partners
Absolutely.
in our community. One thing that I think came to mind for me, I'm a resident of Riverside, Albert, and I often hear that the trails get done, but the maintenance, there's not the funding for the maintenance. So will that become part of the plan for the future?
So good news is, as of this year, the, up until now, we're talking about, which trail we're talking about, I should be.
Well, any trail really does.
So it really depends. So the Sheppey Trail, up until this year, the money that we've had has been whatever I could pull together in any given year. Starting this year, we have a capital fund and a maintenance fund.
Okay.
And we're working with a number of partners and stakeholders, friends of funding, chief among them, to put a plan together and funding proposal together. So that every dollar that we have, we're trying to turn it into three. So we have plans to make a number of upgrades to that trail this year. Continue.
But it's important, and the trails are wonderful and they're huge, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
there are floods and water issues that they have to be one.
And there's not a lot of funding for me, whether that's motorized or non-motorized.
Right.
There's a lot of capital funds out there today, but there's very little funding for me. So we're really fortunate for the RSC and our board to support a maintenance fund, which I hope and expect will grow as we add trail to our regional network that we're responsible for. The maintenance fund will be additionally.
And again, a lot of these volunteer communities or snowmobile associations, they fundraise to maintain their trails and their shelters and stuff. So
Absolutely.
I don't want to lose track of what they're already doing and to make sure they're included in the process of.
And they're at, I hope you'll take a chance to look at the
I
list.
will,
And it included that, I think it was the top of the list.
okay.
Because it is one of many projects that are ongoing that would be great to make sure that everybody's aware so that, you know, everybody is on the same page as much as possible.
Where?
Anybody else? All right, I have a few questions. Like the title of your presentation today was the Southeast Regional Service Commission Recreation Master Plan.
No, it wasn't. It was,
That was in the agenda so that you knew who was coming in, where they were coming from and what they were speaking
Yeah.
of.
So it's got, but so it's not that, it's just that.
so I work for the Regional Service Commission,
Yeah.
so I did put my logo, but really what I wanted to talk about was sportsman recreation, being strategic planning for sportsman.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And yeah, and I'm just suggesting that there's potentially a need here for a strategic planning process. What that looks like is for the community.
Right, okay, for the broader tourism and recreation subject matter.
And I'm
Okay.
suggesting that a plan like this be informed by the community, but be owned by the municipality.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of projects that are going on, like the motorized routes, where I'm not certain, or my project would be similar. I don't know that there is as much awareness of what's going on as it could be. So what happens is, a little while back, there was the motorized group came in and they were looking after a piece of rail bed, or they were looking to acquire a piece of rail bed, and they were talking to you guys. And I had reached out to them a number of times to tell them about the life of occupation that I had received. I talked with Steve Milburn quite a bit, as his lease on the rail bed is concerned. So I try to do my best to my work to consult with other stakeholders and people that, and despite that, there seems to be some confusion sometimes, so that was kind of the starting point for why I thought we need to make sure that there's one document that is updated, takes into account what's going on today, what the goals of today are, and the opportunities of today are, and the realities of today are, so that the community can better take advantage of all opportunities that come the way, capital funding or opportunities for the RSC. The commission is working on tourism and recreation strategy. I think I would hate to see opportunities come along and the municipality wasn't ready to take advantage, because individual groups are not going to have as much ease working through the RC as our members, right? So that's really what I'm trying to do here. I'm not looking to own this. I'm not looking to lead this, but I see an opportunity, and folks that I've talked to have agreed that there's an opportunity to get everybody at least on with a common understanding what's going on, where community can go.
Very good. I would agree. Okay. Anybody, anything else? Nope. So
Thank you very much.
Mark, very good. So that moves us to our second presentation from Ms. Ann Elliott, who just arrived again. And, floor is over to you. Hmm? Yeah.
I'm leaving South Council, I don't have to chair, I don't.
Right.
Uh,
And just a reminder that you have 5 minutes and do your best to.
But basically, it's just there's for council information for you. Can you take it or not? Okay, I'll just read a little bit of my letter. To dear Mayor and Council of the Albert, I appreciate your time and support. I'm going to skip most of it. I'm just sharing my private concerns today, and so I'm asking to speak just to share information with you with my what's important to me. And Deputy Mayor and Linda have shared with me that the property that I felt I own is on another person's land. All in here. And all the documents that I received from my family and from their offering, led me to consider that they were mine that's in here. And the use of it is what matters at the end of the day. Yes. Our deed shows, and I didn't include my deed, I've got, and again, I'll fax it to you, that show what the sale of the property was and all that. But they show that our deeds show Alma Butler's sale to Bowen and Elliott. And that's not me, I didn't buy it. I was not involved in these sales as I was still working in London. I enclose this material and will provide more to which. I don't think you're going to need it, because it's just more, there's information for you, really. I hesitate to impose material which involves court order, because it will involve somebody else in that. But I've been a part of it. I just want to skip a lot because it's not public. My need is what I need or what I want, partly. Is there's a triangular kid that my father and the lawyers have put in place going into Metro Bay Estate subdivision, and I of course care very dearly about it because my father developed it and he sold land to private people who wanted a private place with a covenant on it, that owned a private home and a garage for that family, that one family could use. And so my concern is that covenant property would be respected. Now I'm going to put some material in here that was part of the legal agreements and so on. Because in recent years, there's been move to new businesses and so on, which has changed the zoning on some of these properties, and there's binding contracts with guidance posts that you can't change the zoning, and that's not your job, but which is part of the information. So I'm hoping that you will help and do anything you can to honor those covenant binding contracts with the people, and she have to pay states. The sign has been removed. It's possible my nephew, one of them, needed removed it. I'm trying. I haven't spoken to him in years, but I have to find out who took it down, and I have another one put up. And because I believe the people up there have a right to have their Shenango state sign up. And Mountain Review, when there's a certain established estate, they have a sign to enter. That's more than me. So there, in particular, there's a couple of documents showing up this show the road, the property that has been suggested is on somebody else's land. And to me, it was very clear that it was made for the people who the land I now own, and for particularly for the people who have bought into the Shenango States property. So it's there, a copy of one of their registered documents on their right to come in and exit and enter on the road to get into their homes in Shenango Bay Estate.
And could I ask you just to summarize and finish?
Yeah, well, pretty
To
well
your
done.
times, you're gone past 5 minutes.
Okay.
but
Well, the rest is here from you. And I will get you a copy of my deed. I have a copy of another deed. In those deeds, it shows ownership of that road. Right, their deed and my deed, but now my deed, it wasn't original, shows that the road is, and the other party is accepting it's not theirs. And
So thank you.
would you give this to Linda or Rosa? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So for the benefit of council, I can tell you, and Ms. Elliott referred to it, is that we've already received from Anne documentation that she's referred to. I say we, that's our Chief Administrative Officer and myself as Deputy Mayor and the Ward 1 Councillor, because in fact, the issues that she's referring to are in Alma, and in particular, the Shenango Bay Estate area, which is a subdivision of which Ms. Elliott and her family have interest. And I've explained, there's been a series of conversations that both our Chief Administrative Officer and myself have had with Anne and some of her family. And I would reiterate a couple of things. One is that many of the issues that are being described are actually private property issues that are really best addressed between the property owners, of which the municipality is not one of the property owners. So you and I have talked about that before. I think that's the best approach. I know you've also voiced, not so much tonight, but at other times you've come here, concerns about the zoning on your properties and the ones that you're still wanting to develop. That I think is a much more straightforward. We've talked about this. We have the rural plan as a rural plan consolidation committee is going to be working on this subject. There'll be lots of opportunity for involvement. So I think that I'm sure your concerns can be addressed, but you need to use the proper venue for them. So if anybody has anything to add? No? Okay. So thank you. I would like to move then just to the last. It's the 2-minute presentation from Ms. Phyllis Sutherland concerning overnight parking.
Thank you all for letting me speak. Number one, you remember I sent you the message in the spring and the information, and then watch and a lot of good things, some ideas about what needed to be done in overnight parking. And I definitely like to bring it to your attention. that, are being discussed. Do you have any questions? Have you thought about any ideas? And I'm certainly willing to, work with you on providing any more information. That's what I'd like to mention to you tonight. And you can respond later. Yeah, but I would like to know how it's going. And the second thing is, I just want to warn you, I'm working on a history for you on Clarify. And I'm describing some of the activities and some of the concerns. And I'll be sending that to you too. So now you can go check all the Clarify. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Very good. Anybody want to offer any comments? Ms. Sullivan? Thank you. Sorry, you found a seat.
Thanks. It's just one thing, it is mentioning the clear column.
Yeah.
I just had a quite extensive conversation today. So I'm happy that we brought that up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So that concludes our public presentations for tonight. The next item number 5 on the agenda is information items. These are going to be managed or handled by,
Yeah, I'll talk. So the elections NB, I circulated a letter from elections NB to you all advising you. They will include the mayor position to be filled in the next set of local government by-elections that will be held in the spring. I shared with you the pickleball 2024 report that was sent along by Jim Lindsay. Nice to see some good numbers. They had 804 players in 2024. I also shared the Maritime by Law Enforcement year-end report and the New Brunswick Power Smart Meter information was also shared. MB Power will be holding 2 public meetings in Fundy, Albert, February 10th at the Rec Center in Riverside, Albert at 6:30 and February 20th in Hillsborough at 6:30 at the Kiwanis. I will share more information once I start promoting that for MB Power. It is encouraged for council if you could attend one of those sessions. And if you are able to attend, please let me know so I can let. I don't know if anybody has questions in regards to what I.
just on the NB part, this is to do with the
Smart
upgrade,
meters.
the upgrading, it's considerable upgrade to the transmission.
No,
No.
this is just strictly smart meters.
Oh, still smart meter.
Yes.
They are in the process of organizing or trying to find a location to have a meeting about the one you're referring to, but
Okay.
nothing's.
This is just a smart meter.
Yeah.
I did have a question about the pickleball report. I'm gathering that's just info only.
Yes, it's all.
But I did notice in it that the tile floor is lifting and it's needing repair.
I think that's been brought up.
Is that,
before.
we're well aware of that, and, okay, very good. Cindy, yes? Councilor Milligan, thanks.
Back to the pickleball, is that revenue there, is that included in the report later on from the building? You know, you do the summary of how many times the building was used?
No.
Is that revenue included in that total? So it's additional to what's in that? And the bylaw report, it identified that there's going to be some questionable Form 4s possibly coming up. Have we not already did one? One, okay, and it's still outstanding or
Yes.
doing it? Okay, thank you.
Yes,
If you don't want our presentation help for plans, you have time.
6:30, sorry,
What a conversation.
I hear.
This is really good. I assume it'll be at the Kiwanis.
The ones, yes.
I know in Alma, for instance, at my own house, I had a smart meter installed a little while ago. Have they been throughout Fundy, Albert? Are they finished maybe?
I don't think they're finished yet, no.
Then that's it for our.
That's it for just
Item number
informational.
5, which is information items. Item number 6. Council direction requests. So this is presumably where administration is seeking direction from council. Very good. So item number 1 is concerning Forest Dale home lease request. Over to you. Or?
Oh, sure, okay. Don't want me, I can do that. So council has instructed the administration to return at this meeting, January 21st, with a recommendation for a request from the their website. So from the Forestdale Home Inc. To lease to own the space at 5823 King Street in Riverside, Albert. The document in front of you presented some background information on when the information was presented to council and the result. As you know, there was a motion on the table to sell that property. And we were asked to put a hold on that until further information could be provided to make a decision on the lease to own. The benefits and drawbacks of risk analysis were all provided to you. There are three options, of course. You can implement and open a competitive bidding process that allows multiple parties to submit proposals. You can identify a single interested party and lease to own it to Forestdale Inc. And there are various risks, of course, associated with those, but the option that is presented to you is to open a competition or allow others to possibly express an interest in that property if they so wish. And that can be as easy or as complicated as you would like it to be. You could put an expression of interest out there and see if there's any other interested parties. If nobody steps forward and there's only the one, then that becomes a very easy decision. If there are other interested parties out there, they should be given the opportunity, in the administration's opinion, they should be given the opportunity to put a bid on that property if they are as well interested in leasing to own. We provided some financial information and some community sensitivities that surrounded that, and so did the information and request from the Forestdale.
So thank you. So just to be clear, the property in question is the former municipal office of Riverside, Albert, in Riverside, Albert. And this subject has been, talked about in a number of different meetings that we've had. And the most recent one, maybe not the most recent one, it was the November 5th meeting where you directed administration to do a review of a lease to own situation for Forestdale, and I think in particular it's for the creation of the credit union, which we've talked about. Is there anybody around the table who wants to add any comments or?
Thank you, Bill. We've been talking about now just for a little bit, and I know we direct the administration looking at this lease and whatnot, which is great. But the buildings sit there empty. It's costing us. We're not getting any revenue out of it. Option B to me would be my approach, go forward. Lease agreement, get these guys involved. It's going to better the community. It's going to make jobs down the road. The credit union gets everything all the right out of East Stratford. We'll win. It's a win for everyone. I know there's a process of bidding process of letting other people come into it. This is a business that's going to, it's ready to come. It's ready to go. We can make things happen pretty quickly. And I just want to support it behind the option B.
Option B, which is to identify or to lease to own to Forestdale Home Inc.
Keep that right.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Elder, you?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody at the table knows I'm in support of getting this lease going. For many reasons, as Councilor Land has already indicated, we're going to generate some revenue. We just went through a budget process. We're going to lower our expenses. We're hoping to provide jobs in the community. The credit union, if it happens and it gets started, it's going to provide some stability in the community for a much needed banking institution, not only for our seniors, but the local businesses, the tourism, everything is neat. Everything about this plan checks every box on our strategic plan for me. I do understand about the fair process. For me as a counselor, this process has been very open. We have not hid anything. It's a nonprofit that is asking to lease it. It's not a business or an individual that's going to benefit. I do feel we need to give them the minimum lease that is required for them to complete their long-term goal of getting this credit union. I did highlight in there one of your statements was, I think you identified that it was still on the CCRC plan for the lower corner to have a credit union down there in
That's
the
a
old.
possibility. It's still listed on their website.
Yeah, so I did follow up on that, but I understand that when they had to send in the application, they had to put 3 locations. Because they're gonna come down, is what I understand, and they will check the design, the insurability and the liability of every location. So I think that's part of why it's still on there. The other thing I understand is, I think the hope is that the former village office will become the head office, but that doesn't, and where the AKA money will sit, but that doesn't mean they can't put a mortgage broker down if they need more space down at the corner at the old bank. So I think for me, they're really thinking about the outside of the block. The credit union, they're owned by members, is what I did some little bit of research. And my understanding is they get back to you. If you invest in them, they invest in us. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be beneficial if this proceeds and gets going for everyone. I did look at your revenue projected revenue there for this year going forward for the next 5 years. The water thing, I think it should be covered, not by us. It shouldn't come out of our rent. If they're leasing the building, I think you had in there that we would still cover the water. I personally don't feel we should be covering the water if we're not utilizing the building. That should be the owners. So I guess for me, when I added up the little bit of revenue we're going to make over the next 4 or 5 years, and with the lease to own, if we get the amount of money that they're projecting that we're going to receive once this all gets started, gets finalized, we're not going to get that amount of money by putting the percentage. I don't think it's like that. So as a counselor, I think I have to look at the interest of the residents of Riverside, Albert, because they're the ones that have invested into that building, into the community. And I think this is a way to get back to them and to all of Fundy Alberts. So at the end of the day, I certainly support this lease and the need in the community going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Elgin, and any other councillor, Councillor Russell?
Yeah, so I mean, being a counselor from the other end of the yard, I have to be trust in the counselor from that area. So I respect and would agree with the councillor did with the recommendation. I do think that the lease should actually, I think there's talks of it only be 6 months. I do think it should be 1 year, with the understanding of extending it after that. But I think we need to move forward on this right away. We've been open and transparent about this process for plus months. It's, this is a win-win for everybody. Really,
Else, Councillor Bellman?
Number 6 of command, like you said, was credit unions themselves some of the financial institutions. They do become part of the community. I think very good. There's like other Lobster Bank, also Lobster Bank. It's not a very big void. So I have that much support. And that's what all well.
I would go with option B, just to move it along. They can, the building's been vacant now for another 2 years, eh?
no, like a spring.
Okay. Is there any interest from anybody? So, rented or anything?
Well, we were given direction to put it for sale, but we had to decommission the water tank in the yard before we could put it up for sale.
I still think I would support option B. said, if we want to go on the Albert, we've got to have a bank with, people and open businesses. If they've got to leave the Riverview or something to get change, it's a don't let the horse and buggy should took starting to get there.
Very good, very good. So I would throw in a few comments of my own. I also am supportive of the option B. I think in this particular case, it's exactly the right thing to do. I know that Fundy Albert and the municipal government has had challenges with land, the disposition of land. And we're open to scrutiny on this. In this particular case, I think it is the right thing to do. I did note that under our meeting procedures rules in our meeting procedure bylaw, that at a committee of the whole meeting like we have here, the committee can make motions to make recommendations to council. So it seems to me that there's two things that need to happen on this file, I believe. One is to rescind the previous resolution, which was to sell the property. We put that on hold, but I think it's time to rescind it. And the second would be then to direct the administration to move forward with crafting an arrangement, a legal arrangement with the proponent, the developer, the Forestdale Homes, Inc. For the purpose of this. There's terms that they've already been laying out. You've been reviewing these. It's now time, I think, that we would want to make this agreement so it's formal. Both can see it, everyone's happy, and then it's executed by the mayor and the clerk as is required by the local governance act and of course their side. So unless you see it otherwise, would it be appropriate to have a motion from the floor here, seconded, and we vote on it for at the next regular meeting to rescind the previous motion to sell and to move forward with option B, which is lease to own?
No, I don't think you need to do a motion. We would add it to the next agenda. Now, you could do consent agenda.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, yes, you can do that. Absolutely. So you can make a
So-
motion to move 6.1 for sale home lease request, rescinding motion.
So it would mean that at the next regular meeting, there would not be a need to debate this again. We would, and of course, any council member would always have an option at the time the consent agenda is presented and to be voted on. Remember, en masse, it's just to approve them. And if any council member actually has second thoughts and would like to have a more full and frank discussion on that, it just gets removed from there, from the consent agenda item and ends up being a regular item to be discussed at length. Is there anyone who wants to make a motion that would be something like a motion to make recommendations to council to?
It would be like this. So it would, the council direct item 6.1 for sale home lease request. Rescinding of motion. Like, I don't know the date of when that motion was made, but
Yes,
rescinding
yeah.
the motion. Rescinding the motion to sell and then to direct the administration to execute the lease agreement with for sale.
I think it was February 6th, 2020.
Yeah. Are you able to be nimble on their feet to pull this off?
I would like to make a motion that we're going to make a recommendation.
To your directing item 6.1
6.1
Forestdale home lease request.
for still home lease request. This is a new process.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, but you're gonna have to walk me
That's
through it.
okay. So rescind
To rescind the
the,
sale of the former Riverside Albert Village office that was passed on February 6, 2024. And
and
to make a recommendation to pass the lease agreement, direct administration to prepare a lease agreement at the next council,
to the consent agenda
to the consent agenda,
of the regular meeting of council, February 4th, 2020.
regular meeting council.
Like it was so moved by Councillor Ellicott, seconded by Councillor Coates.
Do you want to read that? Can we have her read
Yeah,
that?
should.
Okay, I did not write it down, but I think I'm gonna go, but it's, so council direct item, 6.1 Forestdale home lease request. Rescinding of the motion made at the February 6th, 2024 meeting,
It's a resolution that was made, actually.
okay, resolution. And direct administration to proceed with the lease request of Forestdale Home Inc. To the consent agenda of the regular meeting of council, February 4th, 2025.
Good and seconded by Wendy. I would say all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. It's passed unanimously. Thank you for working the system to our advantage. So the next one. And over to you again.
Sure. So the next one on the agenda is the Chicopee Community Revitalization Committee lease request. So they have plans to improve the corner of the 114 and the 915. Kind of asked to lease land off of the municipality for 5 years with a renewal plan for 2 PIDs and a portion of a third PID in there to use for the museum or the lighthouse that they have purchased, as well as some boardwalks and parking and different things in that area. There are, of course, 2 options. We cannot lease the land to them. We can lease the land to them. Those are kind of the 2 options. And the recommendation is that really it's a lease in this case. It's not a lease to own. Therefore, the municipality the council can decide to lease to whoever they feel is going to be using the property to the best of that they feel it should be used to. So council had provided some options for lease prices based on some examples out there. However, we can go to legal. If council approves this, we would go to legal and have a proper lease agreement on that. We did annex a memorandum of understanding in the council report that just laid out some terms between the CCRC and the municipality based on conversations that we've all had. And that would serve as an agreement until such time that a legal document the council agrees to proceed with the.
So I think, again, this is another one of these items that's been before us several times as we sort of have been moving this file along. I believe that, and please speak up if anybody sees it otherwise, but in general, I believe council has been supportive of this unanimously all along. I would suggest, and I'll open the floor for comments and such, but if we're thinking that what's being proposed in the report form, or at least the option to go ahead with a lease, and there's a draft agreement there, if this is something that you think that we should be pursuing, that we might want to do a similar kind of motion as a recommendation to council for the next council meeting under the consent agenda, just to let's get her done type thing. So I'd open it to anybody who wants to offer a comment. Councilor Laren?
A question if I may. On the third piece of property, it says a portion of the PID. Would you go from corner to corner from the 2 on the other side?
That I just drew in, it's up for debate. We need to get it looked at. There's a bit of a cliff, not like it's different terrain. So it's going to be what is considered usable to them that they would consider.
I'd be supportive of that. I think It's another one of the things that's gonna bring revenue and, bring people to the area. Finance is sitting there. I think being developed and then they're here to get an answer, and I'm a full support.
Anybody else wanted to?
Just a couple comments. I appreciate the fact that our CAO has met with CCRC directly and worked through that process. So that's good. That's the first step, right? The point that the question, the only one part I did question was about taking the property. At the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, we get the property. But I think I read in there that we give it back the way it is today at the time of the lease. Did I read that wrong?
In normal conditions, you would release the property to somebody and they would return it to you in the condition that they
Okay.
received it in. However, it's very clear that the CCRC is looking to do improvements on that piece of land. And we would then, the municipality would then own those assets,
Right.
boardwalks, gardens, parking lots, a lighthouse. And would need to make a decision at that point,
Right.
whether or not they would then continue to upkeep those or not. And I believe the goal of the CCRC is to get this all up and running so that it's very easy for the municipality to manage from there on.
Thank you for that clarification, because I'm like, well, they do this work and they want it back the way it was. I'm like, I don't know how that's gonna work out for us, but no, thank you for the clarification there. So I'm totally in support of this as well.
Anybody else have a comment?
From day one, I thought it was great for the community. So before CCRC, everything they see the factor cool. Now, it's a great organization for us to work for, and I'm fully supportive of this.
Well, I would add that I also am supportive of this. I know we have some of the CCRC members here today, and I'm not asking you to speak, but what I would say to you is, well, and we'll see if we're going to get a motion to proceed here. I think we may. I would encourage the CCRC people to work with our administration as the final text of the agreement is being worked. Make sure that clearly what we're seeking here would be where both sides are fully in agreement with the arrangement. And that would be the one that that we're wanting to execute. So no one's trying to shoehorn you into anything that is not right for you. And we need to also protect the interests of the community. The only thing I would also add is in the draft agreement, it would be important that the signatories would be the clerk and the mayor from our side. So as I mentioned earlier, I think it might be worthwhile if anyone was prepared to make a motion from the floor like we just did to recommend to council that this be brought forward for approval at the next regular meeting.
All of council has weighed in on the decision. I'll have Councilor Coates, Councilor Ward, Russell, to actually speak to where they stood on.
No, I would support this. I'm just curious, so I do see that dollar value. Yeah.
And this is what I was indicating, where that obviously both sides need to, in the end, agree.
Acceptance, that value, then it would be.
I'm not sure, is there already a dollar value that we know that both sides could agree on?
We have not talked about a dollar value. I put a few options in the
Yeah,
council report
that's
for
right.
but various different ways we go about doing it. And one of the examples was for a property that we lease currently off.
Yeah,
early. Another is doing it off of property value. And with and that's kind of more the way that the NRU would do it in terms of.
but none of these have been shared with CCRC. So I think,
Further discussion.
I think council could say that we have the authority to enter into discussions with it and get legal advice on it and then proceed from there. It is a lot. It's not a building. It's not a rent rate.
We're probably looking at those
It's
cover
not-
the property tax and we'll lease it for $1 a month.
Kind of what we do with some of our properties that we've gotten leased off of others.
Right.
So assuming that that's what the ballpark is, then council could be comfortable with that.
anybody else have anything to say or prepared to make a motion?
So I'm gonna ask a question here. Am I making a motion to move 6.2 to the consent agenda at the next?
If that's what you're so inclined to do, yes. That's what you're doing.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to move 6.2, the Shepherdy Communities Revitalization Committee, known as CCRC's request to the consent agenda at the next regular meeting held in February 25.
So moved by Councillor Elderkin. Second by Councillor Lamb. So any discussion on the motion? I think for clarity, we would be moving it to the consent agenda. And there's an assumption that there would have been some work already done by our side and CCRC to try and converge on an agreement that worked. Hopefully, if that could be done, we could just do it right then and there. Otherwise, that work needs to get done. The agreement needs to be an agreement. And then with details, just for instance, like Council Lord Russell was saying, what is the number, that kind of stuff.
Then in February, if there is additional information we've received from administration, we can move the consent agenda to the regular
Yeah.
and share the information, have the discussion.
Yeah.
Am I understanding this process?
Mhm.
And if we can get the dollar amount
Correct.
provided, the motion will be written with the dollar amount in it. We can have that ahead of time.
Right.
And what I see is, and then we'll take it to the vote, but what I see is, if we vote yes to this, it should be a clear indication to the CCRC folks that, what our intentions are, which are to move. So if there's no more comments, I would take this to the vote then. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those against say nay. And so the motion is passed unanimously. And is there something that we need to improve there, Jillian, you think?
No. I just want to say thank you for your patience because
Yeah.
this is a new process.
Absolutely.
Consent agenda,
Yeah.
So until we get it down to a science,
You're doing
we're
great.
learning as we go.
If there is comments, please,
No.
for improvement. The next one is the bylaw enforcement contract for 2025.
That's me. So send you a council report form, and so the report proposes a bylaw enforcement services agreement between the municipality and bylaw enforcement services to improve the enforcement of municipal bylaws for 2025. So it is recommended that municipal council approve moving the bylaw enforcement agreement to the consent agenda for the next regular council meeting on February 4th. This has already been a budgeted item. It's already been set. It's just over the authority that we're able to go into an agreement. So we need council to authorize that agreement with Maritime Bylaw Enforcement Services. Mhm.
I think it's great, but I'm just wondering that unless this actually states actually. So it probably should,
The level,
I believe that what, which we're going with is 16 hours.
oh, yes. It was, yeah, 6, that's in the lease agreement, I believe, is it not?
Yeah.
It's at the bottom. It's appendix number 2.
Should actually, right. So the state. Free. That.
So it's 16 hours.
Where that's probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the level that it's supposed to study, 43 to over 60.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other comments on this?
Just one comment. I appreciate the breakdown of how they came up with the number. There's a lot of administration costs, and which is, like, I'm assuming that's the administration of the bylaw office. Is that, or is that administration for the person doing the work as well?
It's just for the
Just-
person doing the work.
Okay.
So driving around and finding
It's part of it.
premises is one thing, but then the paperwork and the inspections and the follow-ups and the, like the documentation part of it is really critical because each step has to be properly identified before you can kind of proceed to the next step. So as things escalate, they have to make sure to have all of it.
Thank you.
I would almost even think it's 50-50, one day in the office and one day doing interesting.
So the comment I have is about, like, for 2024, we directed the maritime enforcement to focus their efforts on unsettled premises. And I do see a thing in the proposed contract here, where, like, item number 5, where it says they're gonna, paraphrasing, they're gonna do their stuff, or maybe it's 4. Basically, 5, their enforcement services related to the enforcement of assigned bylaws by the clerk of the municipality. So that is, if I understand correctly, the flexibility is there for us to decide what our focus might want to be in for 2025, and then through you direct them. But in the absence of any changes, to stay on unsightly.
Priority is unsightly.
Yeah.
We also have to have the bylaw, the proper bylaw for what we want them to.
Yeah.
And in such situations, we may not be ready for.
Understand. Okay, so in the council report form, there's a recommendation, which I agree with, which is very similar that we just done, that a council member would make a motion to basically move this. There's even the text, if you, the proposed text, under the recommendation. Everybody see that and prepared to make that? Okay, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Councillor Ward Russell.
So
Is there a second on that? Councillor Jones, second that. Any further discussion? No. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion passed unanimously. Okay, thank you. Moving on, the next one, Committee of Council appointments.
Let's see again. This one here, my apologies, I sent to you late because I missed it. So the procedural bylaw outlines how council appoints members to committees, typically on an annual basis, unless an immediate appointment is needed. The mayor has a role in suggesting appointments, and council can make appointments at any time. The presiding officer of each committee is responsible for organizing meetings, and the mayor is an ex officio member of all committees, but does not have voting power. Council members serving on committees must provide updates to the rest of council through regular reports. So I've got the background there. There's been several committees that's been formed in the last couple of years, including Culture and Recreation Committee, Seniors Advisory Committee, Finance Committee, Land Use Planning Committee, Emergency Measures, Personnel Committee, Bylaws and Policies Committee, ATV Bylaw Committee, Water and Wastewater Bylaw Committee, Funday Albert Rural Plan Committee, and a Recreation Committee. So the current status, we have 3 committees: ATV Bylaw Committee, Water and Wastewater Committee, and Recreation Committee. From what I understand, is the ATV Bylaw Committee is currently on hold. Maybe Councillor Coates can speak to that after, but I believe they're waiting for some maps. The Water and Wastewater Committee and Recreation Committee. So we do have a lack of approved terms of reference, which outlines the committee's purpose, scope, and authority. These need to be created and approved by council before committee activities can proceed. So once those terms of reference are in place, council must also decide on the chairpersons and members for some of the committees, including Emergency Measures and Personnel Committee. So the Emergency Measures and the Personnel Committee are the 2 committees that I believe they're the long-standing committee members. I believe you guys were appointed about a year ago. So there needs to be a conversation around that. That's really all I have on that. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'm sure there is. There's It's a lot.
Well, and what I take from this is we need to sort of tidy up and make more official which committees we have, what are their terms of reference, who are the members,
Mhm.
and then they need to continue with the momentum of doing their work. I don't know, are we prepared to do that now? There's quite a bit of stuff there that,
There is. So I can say, so the current committee is the EMO committee, is the chair is Counselor Coates. They do have, there's an approved terms of reference that was adopted on June 6th, 2023. We have a personnel committee, which does have approved terms of reference, and the co-chairs, Counselor Albertkin and Counselor Ward Russell. And that is all we have for terms of reference. The other 1, 2, 3, 4 groups do have appointments made, but there's no terms of reference for any of these groups.
So,
well, yeah, go ahead, Councilor.
so is tonight where we decide what the need is?
Yeah, well, you guys can discuss it, and then at the next, the council meeting, either drop those committees, appoint committee members to the committees that you guys are in agreement to keep for.
Because I think if I recall back, some of these committees are now 2 years ago because we started them at the beginning, and one being finance, but the first year was a little rocky, and then we decided to step back. And so I guess I'd have to know from the rest of council, is there a need or a want to do a terms of reference and have finance or funding?
Well, my view on that is that maybe in the future, what I believe is that we should normalize or tidy up the 6 committees that we currently have agreed to as a council. Just to review, that's the emergency measures, the personnel committee, the ATV bylaw committee, water and wastewater and its bylaw consolidation committee. That was their purpose. And the Fundy Albert Rural Plan Consolidation Committee and the Recreation Committee. My view is let's try and get those steady. What I believe that we need to do to get those steady, I would be looking for help from administration on this, is that let's start with the work from the bottom up. The Recreation Committee, which is the most recent one that we created. And that had some urgency to create it because it's linked to the liability insurance for various organizations that are doing good work in the community. And the insurance company is demanding from the municipality that we have a committee that has some oversight. So the terms of reference for that committee, I think we need your help on, because it's going to be in part driven by the requirements of the insurance company. I think.
No, in terms of reference to the committee is separate from it. The insurance just needs to know that there is a committee that individual members are like so the boards of those private organizations need to sit on the committee,
Right.
but they need the terms of reference in order to know what committees they need to do in order for them to sit
Right.
on that.
So we already had 2 co-chairs appointed.
Whatever.
So what I would recommend is the co-chairs working with administration come up with the terms of reference that we could approve at a subsequent council meeting. Do you guys agree with that?
CEO from that side of chat from and then right packs.
So that's that one. The next one off the list is the Fundy Albert Rural Plan Consolidation Committee, which we noticed in the creation of that committee, it was very specific that the resolution includes what, for lack of a better word, in my view, is the terms of reference. But maybe what we need to do is convert that into a proper terms of reference that we vote on then at one of the next council meetings. And then we've got the membership there, and so that will normalize that, and then they can get on there. The next one up is the Water and Wastewater Bylaw Consolidation Committee, and I would do the same thing for that, because really that committee's already met several times. And the terms of reference, you and I had an offline discussion about that, I think are essentially agreed to, but maybe not properly documented.
Yeah, it was just a motion passed by council to,
But I shared with you at least the stuff from the original meeting.
no,
Yeah, the agenda. Okay, well, I'll send it again.
Yeah.
Where it outlines essentially the terms of reference of what that committee is for and to do.
Okay.
So,
reset.
and then we can approve that, so it's done properly. The ATV bylaw committee, was there a terms of reference for that?
No,
So it's the same thing, that what we need to do is the two co-chairs, Councilor Coates and Land, work with administration to come up with the proper wording of the terms of reference. So when you finally do start, the membership can be selected and agreed to by council and move on. The Personnel Committee does have a terms of reference. The members, the chairs, the co-chairs have been on that committee for a while.
2 years.
2 years. If the co-chairs are prepared to continue to sit for the foreseeable future, that would be good. If not, would you like to find other members or chairs?
The committee is always open to fellow councilors. But if that councilor will be able to continue with councilor.
Of course, if in time that's no longer feasible for you, then we just bring it up again. I think that would be good. That's an important committee. That is in part also for all sorts of things to do with policies for the administration and such, and they provide some advisory role there and such. And the Emergency Measures Committee, was there terms of reference?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
And we have our chair, Councillor Coates. And probably we need to, with former Mayor Sean Dawn, I know he was a member, we probably need to review membership and we'll hear on that. That's so important. So you think we've done that agenda item?
yeah, so I guess is Jim or Councillor Coates interested in staying on as the emergency measures chair?
What's that?
Are you still interested in staying as the chair for the emergency measures committee?
Apparently, when I took it on, it's the end of my term.
Oh,
Very
okay.
good.
So
We need you.
that in May of 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Coates. We need you. Thank you.
I understood that.
Yeah, that's good.
Previous mayor.
So we should do consent agenda to appoint.
Okay. So what we're looking for now would be a motion from someone to move 6.4 to the consent agenda for the appointment of the committee members, as we've just discussed, if there's any changes or continuation. And even terms of reference, if they were available and we had a chance to review them and we could just do them right then and there. There shouldn't be rocket science in terms of reference. So if anybody's prepared to do that motion,
I'll make a motion to move 6.4 committees of council appointment to the consent agenda of the February 2025 meeting and fund below.
so moved by Councillor Elder. Seconded by Councillor Jonah. Any further conversation?
I just would encourage the committee members to get the terms done at some point, to be able to move forward.
Yes, and if I could ask administration to help keep those wheels churning, that would be very useful. Okay, so all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. We're on to 6.5, the multi-year grant request duration clarification meeting.
So that's me again. So this report aims to advise the Fundy Albert Council on the importance of clearly defining the duration of multi-year grant requests. So in the original policy, it highlights multi-year grants. However, there's no duration as far as how long are these grants when people are applying. Is it 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, etc. So comparing it to other municipalities, it is recommended that the municipal council approve moving the multi-year grant duration to a 3-year duration to the consent agenda for the regular council meeting on February 4th, 2025. Any questions?
So straightforward enough. Is there anybody who has any questions or comments?
So the dollar value is not,
No, it's just three.
and that can vary from like.
Absolutely.
I guess one of the reasons for multi-year grants is to provide stability for the grantee as much as the grantor.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So the recommendation from the clerk is that again, that there be a motion. There's a proposed text there to move this over to the consent agenda. Is anybody prepared to do that?
I'll make that motion. Item 6.5, multi-year committee grant. Request duration of 3 years. The consent agenda. Regular council meeting on February 4th.
So moved by Councillor Land. Seconded. Seconded by Councillor Elderkin. Any further discussion?
The multi-year grants, when they request it, we determine which ones are getting it.
Yes. And if I may, the amount all determinable.
So this is really changing the application process.
Not really, it's just defining the number. So when they apply, we have we'll be talking about that the next agenda item, but we have 2 user groups that have asked for a multi-year grant.
Yeah.
There's no clear definition as far as what is a multi-year grant.
Right. Very good.
So that's the problem.
Okay, I think I had the seconder there. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. We're getting there. 6.6 now is the 2025 multi-year community grant requests.
So this is me. So the proposal presents a 2025 community development grants application. This topic was initially discussed at the November 19th, 2024 committee of the whole meeting. Mayor O'Shaw at the time recommended postponing it until after budget deliberations. The village has been issuing grants to many local organizations for many years and has followed the community development grants policy since February 7th, 2024. The total requested funding amounts for 2025 is $37,820. With 2 applications seeking multi-year funding, that would be the Fundy Blades Group and Hillsborough District Minor Hockey. The 2025 operational budget is $25,000 for 2025. That's been allotted. So needs to be some discussion. I did attach all the asks as well as the backup. You'll notice the Fundy Blades figure skating. I was missing some information. However, they did forward me information, well, to Linda, I guess, just a couple of days ago, and I forwarded to you all today with the missing information with their letters of support and their finances. So that is not missing anymore. Late, but we have it.
Very good. So what I see as what's before us is we have these requests. I guess really the title of this one is the multi-year grant. All of them, but it's all of them. Okay, all of them. So we have the requests that total $38,000 or so, or yeah, almost 38,000. We had the budget at 25, so clearly we can't grant all the requests. As I see it, we can, and in our original policy, it talks about doing the initial grant to 75 or 80%, right?
Yeah.
80%. So that,
20% for the remainder.
yeah, so that would be really, we've got requests before us of 37,820. The policy would say we can divvy out 20,000. So as I see it, we can make those recommendations tonight for all 20,000, try and decide what we want. Or perhaps we want to just identify some that we know that for sure we want to do. And so at least that those applicants can receive early notice that they are getting their grants or what grants they might be getting. So I leave it open to council and floor here for what you'd like to do tonight.
If I may, I would support the minor hockey request. I think that's very important in Bundy Albert. A lot of kids go there, make you very active. Yeah, I would support.
Okay, I think that maybe it is for Paul just to go through these one at a time if we can achieve agreement. So the minor hockey has requested 8,000. That's been the pattern for the last number of years, I believe, certainly last year.
I was grateful. 38,000 as well.
Just three right off the top that you can kind of get a check mark to that been ongoing for a number of years. To me, that would be the Hockey Funny Ways
And
Literacy Express, and that does come to 14,500. So that gives you another 5,500 to fill the void for the motion.
What are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I bet that's right. Are they?
What are you suggesting to release the funding grants?
8,000, 4,000. I believe that's the ongoing number that they have received.
Yes, however, they are asking for $10,000 this year. Yeah, that's,
I think I've expressed this a couple times in the past, is that I don't really think it's municipalities' role to just be handing out. Last mentioned, I started looking at a couple of municipalities, and it's based on a max. There's max contribution that municipality would give, as well as the number that is available. I believe it's $1 or sometimes up to $2 per resident. So I think it's Grand Bend Westfield is max of $12,000. So we are exceeding that with 25. But I also think you want to make so everybody gets a pot of that money in the pot. I think somebody's asking. I think there should be a minimum from now on. Those are the three that we had expressed interest in for a number of years now. And of course, the next one would be a max. So $1,000.
any comments?
I'd also support any revitalization. They want 500. So that's not a big request.
They made an ask for, wasn't in their report for, there was something in their request.
maybe you're referring to the Friends of Fun Day, it was 4,500. I'm not sure.
$500 isn't very good.
That 500, I believe, is for their welcome to the Bundy Alberts gift packages that they bring to new residents.
And I think social, I think they were going to try and do 2 or 3 socials to bring people out to meet people. So for those that don't know, CCRC has put a package together. So when someone moves into the community, someone goes into a package with business cards and different things from the community, so they know what's available. That's what they.
So the asked on May 21st of 2024, $4,000. That correct?
May of 2024.
Yes.
That's right. That was it. That, I just, I guess I didn't look at the data, just very bottom where it says more housing, so. But that's an ask, that's my last question. And it's.
So what I've heard around the table so far, is a proposal that tonight, and I'll recap here, tonight that we move forward with the minor hockey group for 8,000. The Fundy Blades, holding them at 4,000. To bless them, by the way, the 8,000 is their ask for minor hockey. Fundy Blades, we would hold them at 4,000 really because that's what we can afford. In a way, even though it's less than their ask. Literacy Express, we would do 2,500, which is their ask. And CCRC, which is 500, which is their ask, which by my calculation is 15,000 total. That leaves us another 5,000 that we could review perhaps at the next meeting. Or if you want to do it tonight, but we could also just, there's a lot going on in our lives, I know, and in our council business. If you want, we can at least get 15,000 done tonight. The ones I just listed, and that gives us, you know, there's still $10,000 that we could address in a further meeting. Or people, what would you like to do?
I agree with that, but I think some of these, to decision, based on that, so I really think that we need to connect the, 2009.
Okay.
And,
Okay. So we're at 15. If there's common agreement or general
that's
agreement
what I'm
about.
thinking.
I agree with that. Get it set up, get it done. That way they speak, we have money coming.
Okay, so,
I just have one question. So there's some that we gave to last year that didn't request that have been regulars.
Mhm.
One would be the Albert County Exhibition. That is advertising. So does that mean if we don't approve it tonight, that we're not going to provide advertising at the Albert County Exhibition? She's saying yes and we're saying no.
Well, it's only, we're even 20% of the budget.
Yeah.
Up. Yeah,
So we are within 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Already doing 20, that's all about.
I think, for me personally, I think we really, if we've agreed on these, I think we should wait and see. Put some thought.
The call went out for the multi-year grant as part of the policy. We said in August, we would go out and make a request for those that wanted multi-year grants. So we have that information pre-budget to get an idea of what type of money people are requesting. So there are a lot of those that weren't interested in a multi-year grant that would then possibly be applying for just a regular.
And I'm looking, which I'm surprised the Alma Collective has not requested, because they have requested for the last 2 years that we've been here for their festivities. But I see there's a new one here for the Alma Tourism. So is that the same thing? It's just transferred?
No, it's a different group altogether.
Yeah, it's a different group altogether. So,
you can see that actually in the,
right.
if you read through the
Yes, I do. Yeah.
council report.
I didn't know whether it replaced. I read the report form, but it didn't clarify whether it replaced the Alma Collective or not.
You know, some of the other bigger amounts that are in there for requests of people that we were familiar with would be the Hillsborough Elementary Home and School Association. I think that was for the playground a bit. There's Friends of Fundy, which is active in the community.
Well, I'll press it there. So you've got $5,000 left. I think there is 5 names left here. It's just that they should have $1,000. That actually doesn't cover for thousands. Friends of Funding for 1,000. Albert Dance Fishing for 1,000. The Albert County Historical Study for 1,000. Online Community Tourism for 1,000.
Comments there?
I can support that. I'm not sure if they, and I only bring up the exhibition because I'm not sure if they see advertising as, a booklet to be a multi-year,
And it probably is not. However, I don't believe that we have money in a budget for an advert.
right. So that's why I bring it up, because I think it would look very poorly on behalf of Fund the Albert if we didn't support the Albert County exhibition.
We had money for promotion from the Albert. And to me, that's where that would sit under, but I don't remember at this point what amount that went down to in the budget. It was that.
And I feel the same way about the Eric Steves Memorial Golf Tournament. That's not on this list.
There'll be that 20%.
Right. So there are a few things that I think we support that are initiatives that have happened throughout the community that aren't on this list.
So you're still wishing that we kind of hold steady at
That's my
15,000?
personal
Well, actually, I'm agreeing actually with Councillor Elkin, but let's see if we can have a majority position at least about, should we go beyond the 15? I think we've got agreement on the 15, which was, just to repeat, hockey for 8, funding Blaze for 4, Litter Express for 2.5, and CCRC for 500. That totals 15. Councillor Elkin is suggesting we just kind of catch our breath. Maybe talk to some of the other organizations here, get more clarity. And then to revisit. I support that, but I know Councillor Land was thinking the groups are waiting for some indication, so.
They've made, if I may, they have made requests, so, I agree with Councillor Ward that, you give $1,000 to Enterprise, and take the 5,000 off the end to pick up whatever's coming down the road. Because they did their homework and they did send in a request. So, that was my thing.
Anybody, Councillor John and Councillor Coates, yeah.
On places for homes. Nothing in the financials, so they have ice rebate of 4,000, that they're asking to go under the grant.
That's the 2024 number.
Yeah,
So they were given 4,000 last year. And
That's the same
that
thing,
to
the ice rental or ice rebate.
Yes.
Not for cost. I'm going to find, it happened.
Okay. So, folks,
I would think that, we go with the 15 tonight, put that away and, yeah, I'd go with them.
okay, so we have 3 and 3. Well, well, normally what would happen, normally I have a vote. Whether it's the deputy mayor or the acting mayor, we all have a vote. But what the 3 and 3 is, normally a motion's failed. It's tie. Tie it.
I can make a recommendation.
Please.
So the policy was written that had criteria under which we would be awarding any kind of grant. So I would recommend that maybe council take this list, refer back to that policy and determine which ones in here, if they all meet the criteria. So a lot of people ask for money out of the municipality. We clearly don't have the same money as we did previously. And the same people keep getting the same money all the time, which makes it very difficult for anybody else to want to break into this business of, maybe getting a jump start on something. If they are not available to get funding anywhere else, this could be their only opportunity to get funding. So, because these people are continually requesting money from us, shouldn't really be a criteria under which we continually give money to organizations. So have all of these people come back to us with grant money that they received last year, telling us what they received or what they did with the money, what the results of the event was. Like, have they followed up on their recommendations and their actions? from the events that they have from the money they received previously. So maybe my recommendation would be, because we can't make a decision at the table just yet, and it needs to be a motion at the next meeting, that maybe the council could look at the policy and determine if these individuals are still considered viable applicants.
Certainly, I think for the first four, there's unanimous agreement. They're viable and in accordance with policies and the aims of our grant system. Yes, go ahead, Councilor Dobbs.
Say, quote them coming back, let's let us know what they've done, with the money and how successful. Right, we have that information.
I believe that in the council report, there was indications, but some had not necessarily followed through on what they're required based on last time asked for grant money. And, you know, making cuts to all of the applicants except for some, then you would maybe have to have some sort of justification of why those would receive the full amount they requested and other ones would not, would be another.
Well, I think we've discussed in the past that if we're not doing these rebates with minor hockey and on the blades, they need to be known in advance of their season. I think we've said that every year since we've been funding out, and we haven't done that. So obviously they are dependent on us, which was news to us when we became counselors. So if that's the route we're taking down the road, we need to make them aware. So for their planning and registration, you know, we have kept the same amount, but we also have not had any ice rental increases for a numerous number of years either. So, you know, I think, you know.
Because remember, this is a 3-year commitment to this.
Right. So when you talk about partnerships, to me, administration, minor hockey and Fundy Blades is a partnership. So they know where we're headed for. There's going to be rental increases on the ice rental. Things are changing. So I think as a council, we need to decide if this is the route we're going to keep. And if we're not, then we need to have that discussion with minor hockey and Fundy Blades before June of this year, not once they put the registration out in July. That's personally how I feel. So to not give it to them now just because we always did feels wrong.
So back to, so I think we do have agreement on the first four totaling 15,000. The last 5 totaling 5,000 that we had sort of were split of whether to go for it. Does anybody want to move? Really?
I kind of find my points. Thank you.
Is there any other way that, I mean, Blades and minor hockey and is it half side grant? Can we not give them a discounted on their expenses?
It's what happened. I was just gonna say the same thing. Why are we getting grant money? Maybe we should look at getting ice time for free.
They're not free, but
There is a cost still associated, but maybe not the rate. The cost associated with the ice is not necessarily the retail rate, right? Maybe,
I don't know what's up there, is it right now?
I think it went up to 180. For prime. I'd have to double check that chart. I don't remember exactly.
But I think they do get a rigid rate.
They do get a reduced rate and they get
Get a grant.
So right now it's they pay 185 or
I would have to go back to a council report that we did on the arena. That would have that information at all.
They don't get a reduced rate. The youth groups, all youth sports, there's no tax. That's all.
Okay.
And it's all across the board, like
so everybody.
for youth. Oh, no tax, with the no tax, sorry, that would be their discount. I'm not sure what their rates are.
152.17. That's for prime. No, prime, line.
That's what the HFP.
Mhm.
We were just wondering if there was a way that the 4,000 and 80,000 could be discounted from their hourly rate, and that would actually put more money
Well, except the money's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah,
So at least this is visible. This
exactly.
is-
And I think it's important for them to show their expenses and that we're offsetting that at their. Because doing a true picture and not having any rent expenses is not a true picture. For the new families of the board that are taking. And the new council could have in a year, could have a different opinion on it again, so.
This is what, as the chair, the difficult job it is. I would say what I've heard is we have a unanimous agreement on 4 totaling 15,000. I think we should basically make an agreement to advise administration to let these people know that their grants are granted in those amounts for those 4. I would, yes, I would suggest then that even though we're kind of split on the others, I think we're heading in the right direction. The advice from recommendation from administration is maybe a little bit of homework, and we're not talking about big delay here. Maybe one more meeting worth of delay. Let's just go back, review the requests, and we'll be aiming at like the next meeting or even the next one, like either to deal with the $5,000 more. We'll probably have better consensus position there. Is that okay? Perfect. Done.
So can we're gonna do the consent agenda for the ones that were,
Yeah, for the 4.
Yeah.
And council has homework to do, and we're gonna get that. And coming with another, even if it's the same proposal, I think we'll be better ready to. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. Thank you so much. We're getting there.
Do I need to make a motion?
yes.
Do you? Okay. Do we? Okay, go for it.
Sorry.
I will make a motion that 6.6, the 2025 multi-year community grants request for the following: Literacy Express for 2,500, CRC for 500, Hillsborough District Minor Hockey Association for 8,000, Fundy Blades for 4,000. We move to the consent agenda for February 25. Absolutely.
So moved by Councillor Elkin, seconded by Councillor Land. Any discussion?
February 4th.
Thank you.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. I think that we had, motion passed unanimously. So moving on to 6.7, which is a proposed new bylaw respecting dog control.
So that is me again. So the proposal is to consider bylaw number 01-2025, which addresses dog control in Sunday Albert, with its first and second reading scheduled for the regular council meeting on February 4th, 2025. This bylaw aims to promote animal health, safety, well-being, and humane treatment while addressing public safety and environmental concerns. It does align with the provincial animal control legislation. Additionally, this proposal includes repealing the 3 previous bylaws from the villages of Alma, Hillsborough, and Riverside, Alberta. The new bylaw is designed to harmonize local animal control policies with provincial standards. So the agreement that is attached to this recommendation from the NBSBCA, they will only do what's in the act. So this was their recommendation. They won't, I know in Hillsborough, they have a section about not to feed deer. The NBSBCA is not going to touch that. So if that's something that council wants to look at, we'd have to look at the bylaw enforcement officer enforcing that, or looking at another agency to enforce it. So this bylaw mirrors the exact act, which I have attached to the bylaw. And it'd be more in compliance with the agreement that will be in place with the SBCA.
Okay, and as I understand the council report form, you're presenting this to us now with the objective is at the next regular council meeting, we would have the first and second reading of this bylaw. And we would have time to reflect on that, and then at the following next regular meeting, we would actually have the third and final reading of this bylaw pass. Is there any comments or? So do we need a motion to?
No, not for.
No. So I do have one question, because we haven't done too many bylaws.
No.
So now that we basically have agreement, I think, to proceed are you intending on putting this draft bylaw on the website for public
Yes, I
consultation?
will.
Very good.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. Do you need anything from else then?
No, this is if there was conversation or if you have any questions or concerns, I just didn't want to blindside anybody at the regular council meeting and
Yeah.
wonder what this is all about.
Very good. Thank you. So that pushes us out of item 6 on the agenda, and now we're into item 7, the departmental reports. So over to administration for that.
Start, because my part's going to be fairly quick. So the first portion always is with the community grant program. So we finished off 2024 with allocating $38,840, which was 12% under budget on the grant. The next portions are statistics for the fire department. I'm trying to work with the fire department to get standardized reporting for 2025, so we can really kind of look at it and compare the what's being presented to us. But for now, this is what we've received from Hillsborough and from Riverview and from Alma. The animal control statistics for the third quarter, no, for all of 2024, sorry. Again, not very many cases of animal control and not very many fines levied. However, it's a legislative requirement, so we have to proceed with it regardless. The number of licensing sold was a very small amount. I don't even have a final total on it, but it's somewhere close to like 45 or so, I guess. The new contract that we're putting in place with the NBSBCA, the licensing becomes their responsibility, so with the revenue, which is fine because we don't really make much money off of it, and we have to buy the dog tags in groups of 100, I think it is, or 200, one of those, and we never use them all, and the amount of money we would spend just on having dog licenses is less than what we're bringing in for the amount that we sold.
So how would someone get the dog license? In
They will go
past?
through the NBSBCA, so we'll put that on our website and where they can go to with a link, and anybody calling into the office to get that. But we'll have to post something on the website and on social media, just instructing people what they need to do to get their dog licenses.
Yep.
There are currently no RFPs, tenders, or quotes, and the final number for building permits, I see now I made an error, didn't tally up the award one properly, but $8,895,657 is the value of the building permits that were done in the Albert. Unsightly premises, we have received the report from them. The pie chart in here is just that there's 33 was the total number of complaints that were received for unsightly premises. And that number differs a little bit from the report that we received from them because 3 of them were not considered to be unsightly. So we have it in our figure, but it's not listed in part of their. And I will then turn it over to finance.
Okay. So for the finance department and audit in December, after the estimated draft financial deadline, our auditor has come back for the same. Finance department has completed the request and waiting for confirmation that they require. For budget, on January 10th, we received approval of our submitted 2025 budget from our senior director of finance from the community finance department of local government. Administration has begun aligning the budget with the draft 2025 work plan and plan projects and capital purchases to share with council in the near future. Year end, finance is currently working on completing our 2024 year end and to share our pre-adjusted figures during our February 2024 committee as a whole. Aging receivables, I do not have the time to put together our current, but we are still actively looking after them and have put a fourth quarter and first quarter billing for Alma and Riverside efforts On Wednesday, January 15th, I took part in the Property Assessment Service Department of Service Brunswick Information Session through AMAB on understanding assessment, a brief overview of property assessment in New Brunswick. Property Assessment Services gave a brief overview of their structure, connection to the Department of Environment and Local Government, and Finance and Treasury. The key points I took away from this information center is that all staff that work under the Department of Property Assessment Services are all certified the same as a property appraiser you would hire to come to your home and prepare a appraise on your property. Building permits, new construction, sales analysis, and re-inspection when houses are selling lower than market value are what trigger adjustments to our property value. In 2025 property assessment notices, they will actually show what your actual property value is according to their assessment, and they will show a credit applied for the 10% strike protection that is put on property tax.
There's usually questions after for finance, if anybody, or did you want us to just complete?
Oh, if anybody has.
There's not a lot, and again, we need to finish the whole budget exercise, it's still in January, so there's not a lot to report on it.
Yeah, I had a question about the receivables. You gave us a very in-depth report in the past, so we'll just see that in the morning.
Fair enough.
Who's doing the next section?
So it's communications budget, we do the first part, ticketing piece. So we're still using the ticketing system. The team down the bottom have really embraced it to the point that there's items going on there, and within hours, some of them are being dealt with because the guys have got it on their phones, they can bring it up, you've got a spare minute, find it and deal with it. So that's really good. That's reflected in the resolution time in this, the short narrative we put on there is in average of just under 5 days, which is good. However, that doesn't really show you there are some items on there that have gone on for a significant amount of time as well. It's just things we haven't got the resources to deal with as yet. We are starting to get some really good statistics from it. I would say what we get in the moment are called low confidence. It's starting to show us patterns, but it's probably not worth making changes based on it. But it is interesting to see that the water wastewater piece is where a lot of the issues or tasks are coming from. And that really does, for the work we've done on the work plan, really reflects what we've seen in that as well, the amount of work we need to put into that. We're definitely in a position now where we can really start to push this out to the wider public, really start to advertise it, get out more information for people to start using this. And I think what we'll see is more information coming in, help us get better statistics about where we need to go, and again, reducing that time span of getting things dealt with. You got any questions about any of the statistics there specifically?
I just had one. What would be the type of, like you said, there's a lot, it appears there is a lot under the water and wastewater, which basically is the 3 former villages. But what type of things are being reported through the water and wastewater?
So this is why I said I'm kind of looking at this low confidence at the moment, because if you look at the first bar graph there, November's the big peak, and that is where we had a lot of people calling in to have their water shut off for the season. So that's where that kind of spike is.
Okay, so that would be some of the,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
it's not because
It's not because there's leaks
water
everywhere.
may break, but,
No.
okay.
Yeah, it's not leaks everywhere. It's more seasonal shut offs.
Okay.
There have been a few things about discoloured water, tasting water, and things like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But again, what really helps with this is in a few months we can look back, and especially after the turn on season comes on for water, it gives us then windows where we can really start pushing that into our work plan as to where we've got set time aside to deliver those services. Cool. Any other questions about that? No. That's great. On to the boring alert, please.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So Voyant Alert, as of January 13th, there are currently 471 subscribers. We are still currently pushing it out through Connecting Alberta County, our website and social media. So the alert and notification summary from August, when we launched this Boyne alert system, to January 13th, there's been 23 alerts activated by staff. Linda, do you want to speak to that little blurb there? I don't know.
So at the, when we had the Christmas market for the CCRC, Derek Lackey and Jim Lindsay actually volunteered to sit at the table on behalf of the municipality and register to the craft market. And they provided some comments and some details, but they had 70 people that show up at the show. So they signed up right then and there, and another 80 took literature home. Now they did record some that said that they weren't interested, and they provided some recommendations and comments on why they think people weren't interested or what they were hearing in that, and we will take those into consideration and try to figure out different ways to rebrand and try to get more interest in the community for the alert system, which will definitely help with that.
So going into some funding, as we see, everything is pending in my world. One new thing is I did submit applications to the SEED student applications for summer students. Did that on January 16th. Also, still no word from Hanson Signs in regards to the install. I don't think they could do it this time of year anyway, but that's still pending as well. And I do have the municipal assets, the rental units listed there if anybody has any questions. I'm currently reviewing bylaws. I haven't looked at the schedule that's in place there, but
It shifts quite often.
yeah, anyway, I'll work on that. And that's really all I have to report.
Good.
Awesome. Just one question about the municipal asset, and I know, I think we've talked about it, but at what point do we bring up our municipal asset? And I'm truly thinking about the former village office in Alma. I think at some point we need to have a conversation, or at least a clarification of, is there anybody in it? Is it being used? All those kind of questions. So is that something that we could probably move to February? Get conversations
I would say
moving?
possibly March on that one if we could. We just need time to assemble, because it's not just assets as in buildings. There's a lot of land assets. There's a lot. So give us time to get it all together and figure out what we would like to present back.
That's fair. I think it's time.
A lot of it's on the asset management plan.
Yeah.
And then tie that into work plans and projects and so that's what we want to focus on right now is the work plans and projects for 2025. And then start getting some, any tenders out that we need to get out. So that's kind of our focus right now, but we would like to look at that list of assets and have some decisions.
Yeah, because there's some assets I think we're carrying that are costing us. And I don't mean us at the table, I mean, us and funding Albert as a whole, that we really need to start having conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, we'll go to water and wastewater. Obviously, in the past few months, it's been myself that presented this, but it is Heather Kale that actually does a lot of the work on really diving into detail on it. So it's great to have her here tonight, and hopefully she'll be a feature of all the committee, the whole meetings and meetings in Tweed. We really need to turn up to provide advice or comment on things.
If you turn the heat up a little bit, buddy, I'll be here every week.
It's tropical in here.
Need a coat? Need a coat.
First and foremost, thank you very much for the invitation to attend this evening. I hope to maybe make to a few more meetings. I apologize, I came late. I traveled quite quickly from Fredericton, but I guess I didn't really need to. But anyway,
You're the best part.
I missed the best part here. So I just, we broke it down into Riverside, Albert, Hillsborough, and Alma. See, Tim is cold as well.
It is cold in
Yes.
here. It's getting colder.
So in Hillsborough, we're continuing to use the Beaumont well. So this is only for December, my reporting. We continue to use the Beaumont well because we did have some issues with the Albert Mines well because of the increase in temperature. We had some rain events there, so that has an impact on the turbidity in that Goody well. So residents probably will continue to notice some taste and odor issues in the community as a result of that. But hopefully we can get a new water source up and running here in the next year or two. We did have one water line break on December 29th. It It was a Sunday morning on the Salem Road. It was a result of a failure of a coupler on the line. It was a air valve. I know you folks don't want to know this stuff, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. It's an air relief valve. It's a high elevation, so you have some air that gets pocketed in the lines over time, and that air relief valve will blow that off, so you get consistent flow of water through your distribution system. So in the maintenance management plan, I certainly hope that we get a chance to go through and look at all our valving in the communities and assess these and look at the aging infrastructure and how we can, replace this without having these issues in future. On the wastewater side of things, everything seems to be flowing downhill and out into the treatment plant, and everything seems to be working to the regulatory requirements. So we're doing well there. Riverside Albert, we just finished up the wastewater, the water treatment upgrades. We have new filters in there, a new system. I invite anyone that wants to come see it. Please let me know and we'll take you in. There's 3 items that are left on the list to do that we can hope we'll get the contingency funding to do. Number 1 is the replacement of a chlorine panel that was removed by previous operators. That needs to be back and installed so that we can work effectively and efficiently into delivering the chlorine dose to the system. The second is the floor. Because we've done all those renovations and work, there's no point in having a dirty, dusty old floor. So I'd like to have some paint on that. And I think Ian will agree with me on that one. And yeah, so those are the last things that are to be cleaned up on that project. It is working well. From operations point of view, we've had to bring the iron out and adjust some, fine tune some things, but EXP has been excellent to work with and get those things rectified for us. And our general contractor, Camille Legier and Sons, have been excellent to work with, I should say. And in Alma, surprisingly enough, we're able to produce enough water to meet the needs of the community. We did have one a little blurb, so we had to turn the backup well on. We're looking at what's going on there. We're not sure what's happening. It seems to be on a monthly basis, but we're kind of keeping track of that so we can kind of maybe diagnose or see what's happening there. Fingers crossed that we'll have a new water system for Alma and everything will be in good working order in 2026. There on the wastewater side of things in Alma, things are working well, other than the lift stations. So the lift stations have a problem. The lift station's problem is that they've only got one pump in each station. One pump that's been working for 20 years and it's pumping like crazy and it doesn't stop. And my biggest fear is that is going to stop. Because if that stops, then you've got an overflow. You cannot pump that wastewater to your lagoon. So that means that you're going to have a vacuum truck sitting there at $210 an hour to pump waste out of that wet well and transport it. And you can't transport it to the Alma Lagoon. You've got to either take it to Riverside Albert, or if you can get into an agreement with Fundy National Park, maybe take it into their lagoon up on Chignecto. But that's a costly venture. I am very, very, very concerned about Alma's wastewater system. As I understand it from these good folks here, that they've applied for some funding to buy new pumps. Well, that was way back in October. And here we are in January 20th, and it's a minimum 12-week delivery time on a pump. And we don't have those pumps yet. And we're coming into a very wet season in the spring, and my fingers are crossed that you're not going to have a problem. So whatever we're going to do, can we get these pumps, or can we really build the pumps that we pulled out and that are in the shop now that need to be rebuilt? That's a question I'll leave to you folks. I'm just giving you my professional opinion that you're treading on some shitty soil.
Comments to that?
So on the comments on the rebuild or the purchase of purchasing new ones, we can get grants, at some cost to from the Albert The issue with the rebuild is pretty much the full cost of that goes to Fundy Albert, the Albert water and wastewater utility. That's the key thing there. Something else might happen.
We can, as administration, we can go back and look at our budget numbers, because I
Yeah.
do believe we did budget for a rebuild.
The thing is, if
this
you
year.
rebuild now, you've got to set it, you've got a pump that you can put in there. And then that second pump it's at 20 years of its life as well, and it's gonna blow. So you need to put that new pump that you're buying in, that pump that you're pulling out needs to be replaced, rebuilt too. So then you've got a backup. And then you never come across this problem again. I mean, there is talk that you're going to, do upgrades to your wastewater system, but that could be 3 to 5 years away. That's 3 to 5 years that you're relying on one bad pump and the possibility, fingers crossed, that you're going to get the funding to buy brand new. I'm just a little cautious
The
here.
questions I have, there's 2 lift stations, is that right?
2 lift
Or
stations.
do they have the same pump?
They do not. No, the Foster Brook is a 3 horsepower and the other is a 20. I call it the restaurant.
But you think it-
Fundy Takeout is a 20 horsepower because it's pulling water, it's pulling everything from the community plus
Same.
Fundy National Parks.
Yeah.
So it needs a good hump.
Yeah,
And
okay.
man, oh man, if that 21 blows, whoo-hoo, look out.
But so
You,
there's grants, but what's the status on the grants?
check in, he kind of said, let it sit with us and we'll call you back, but I had already planned on calling back this week to see where the status is, because it's part of there was an agreement of council to go back to our Candy Community Building Fund and to readjust. So I have completed the application to readjust our amounts in the 2019-2023 extra allocation. I'm just waiting for them to confirm, yes, you have it. Go ahead, purchase them, and we will reimburse. That is all I'm waiting for from them.
Are any of these pumps similar to or the same as any of the other pumps in the other
you
utilities?
can't pull them out. You've got a
Nope.
Riverside Outlet that's
Yeah.
working okay. You've got some in Hillsborough that still need attention too, that we haven't.
There's
looked
no
at.
spares anywhere.
No. No,
They're completely different.
yes. Mhm. So that's the reason why I bring this to your attention, that it's critical infrastructure that needs to be brought, and we need to push this. Like, I don't want to sit there with a vac truck 24/7.
You got 2 pumps, one's small and one's big.
Yep,
Critical is the big one, you got Funny National Park. So
you got it.
what is the cost? Build it, what's the cost? And a pocket, no grant.
The cost of rebuilding, this is why we went to hopefully buy, the cost of rebuilding and buying, there was not a significant difference between the two.
What is that, right?
I don't know off the top of my head, because I know the cost of one of the pumps was 50,000 in the big pump on the range.
I should have
Cost was only about
looked at my,
8 to 10 below that.
And
So you're-
rebuilding a 20-year-old.
Yeah,
but once you rebuild, you've got
Yeah.
like all your bearings, all your,
The case is still.
the case is still good. You should put bearings into it and away you go. And the thing is that, he can probably do it in 6 to 8 weeks, whereas you're looking at 12 to 14 weeks.
So my second question, if we were to take and rebuild that 20 gallon pump, right? Do they have a spare that we can throw in there till we get it repaired? So to pull it out and rebuild it, you gotta shut down the system or have.
We're running on one pump right now.
So you have to have a new pump to put in before you can get the one to rebuild.
but we've got a
No second pump to be rented or leased.
You're rebuilding the one that's down
Yes.
and you're running off of the one. that's
Because we've
not.
only got one pump in that well.
So the
right
three
now.
pumps in each hole,
Yep,
so you already got one sitting right.
we got
there.
one, we don't have anything rebuilt. We've got
No,
one out.
you
ready
got
to
one
rebuild.
ready to rebuild.
Oh, if I can get the overhead, it can get
So-
done.
decision was made at the time based on the availability of funding that purchasing new through the grants was the way to go. Unfortunately, it's the province that's dragged their feet on releasing this funding that's slowed it down.
Would the recommendation be to repair the pump currently, and then if the grant comes through, then you purchase it second?
Rebuild.
That's
You're talking about the soup criteria point in your system now. If the 3 horsepower goes down, you can work around. That big fella, you can't, you got 20 extra power. And you already got 1 pump out, so there's no backup. And you got it sitting. My opinion is to take that one and get it rebuilt ASAP. And put it in, and then if you find funding, put that money towards it, or buy a new, and put the 2 back in the situation. Both.
That's the rebuilding, so.
But what's it gonna cost you to blow it out?
Yeah.
The urgency is here is a little bit more eminent than what we're all thinking. Because when you go and turn the tap on, you get water running straight, it's the other way around, flush the toilet. But that, I was an animal when we put the system in, I paid a lot of attention. And I know how all the pipes, I have a good idea and understanding where it is. If that thing don't work, you guys move it out. It takes a lot of water.
So, if I understand correctly, normally in a lift station, there's redundant pumps,
2 pumps.
but only one's required to do the job and there.
Well, what it does is a lead and lag, so every time it cycles, pump A comes on. The next cycle, so it pumps it down, the next cycle, pump B comes on. So that you're always running these pumps, you're not running one out completely,
Yeah.
you're sharing a load.
Yeah, and one, and
And right
the
now-
failure is visible, because if you only are ever running one and the other one is supposedly your backup. But yeah, don't run it regularly, you don't really know.
And then,
Yeah.
so you've got one in that station, so then you get that pump out that's broken or that you need to repair, and you get it back into that system sooner than later.
If I may, you have 2 pumps that alternate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they both run at the same time. So if one broke down, the next one is
Yeah,
far behind.
yeah.
That's exactly what, yes. Mhm.
I think that's very critical.
Yeah, under the banner of risk management, it looks like we need to be managing risk, yeah.
Let me make a note. I just don't want the presumption that administration's kind of pushed aside. Elmo Utility did not have the funding to
Yeah.
do nothing last year. With the new budget, we did put money aside to rebuild, so we may be able to at least do rebuild the bigger pump at this time. Based on whether there's funds in it.
So actually,
And if you need any, if administration needs any assistance in convincing the funding agencies of the importance of this, like through council, let's work
So where's the
cooperatively.
grant that we've applied for?
It's not really a grant we applied for. The Camden Community Building Fund gave us extra, I believe it was around $140,000 in 2023. And we had allocated it for a certain project at the time. And we had brought it, me and Ian had brought it back in October, November, that we would like to readjust these for projects that weren't as imminent to this project, which we did. We turned around, went to Camden Community Building Fund and resent an application. And I've not heard back whether we've been approved. I questioned it and they kind of said, leave it with us and we will get back to you when you have approval.
So is there something that the deputy mayor can get moving here?
That's what
It's
that's what I'm
a
saying.
political,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
political thing.
Yeah.
I can definitely look into what department that could be, whether it be provincial or federal or both. Overall, I'm gonna look into that tomorrow first thing and ensure that it's. Yeah.
If is there any reserve money on?
I think,
Well, the treasurer would-
think about this, this was why partly why that decision was made. It's like the treasurer brought up, there was no money at the end of last year. Yes.
The only question, I mean, there was no money, but we need to look at these things and say, is not rebuilding that pump and then letting an environmental catastrophe happen. We've got to look at this, I think.
So I think we appreciate you bringing this up to us. I think it's really important too. So now we know, now it is our due diligence to do something. And so if I do think that council sometimes doesn't give very much direction, I think this should be very strong direction to measures to move forward. We can pinpoint what those steps are, but with the treasurer, first one to, and that's what it's not new money that you're asking for, it's just a relocation of what it's private. I mean, that's a.
Yeah, and I'm
done.
very surprised on the time on it. But I think with the provincial election and with the changes in federal right now, that it seems whenever those elections occur, it seems to backtrack anything that we're doing that government parties. Another difference right now is that we have the new budget for 2025. There's now some money that we can do with the refurbish. And if I could throw out there for consideration is that this is the year that we'll be looking at phase 2B of the Alma Water Project. And we have often thrown out the discussion of the lagoon being maybe the option 2B as opposed to expansion of the water system. This might help to inform some decisions.
Okay, again. How long does it take to change the pump? No change.
Just
You have
change it?
to pump the rhythm. I'm pulling up one back in.
20 minutes. 15 minutes. I got somebody good on the end of that crank and
Yep, no, I'm just curious. I didn't know how big.
And
it
do a
was.
bit of
You gotta shut the
electrical?
System down.
Yep.
That's all.
we'll run one pump. We'll drop that one in. Then fingers crossed, we'll have money to buy or refurbish the second one.
But
But-
you're saying that even the availability, and the availability is bad, even if.
Yes,
if you
sir.
might-
Nobody holds anything on the shelf these days. Everyone.
Especially at 20 horsepower.
All the natural disasters that happen around the world don't have either, right? It takes up generators and pumps from stuff get allocated to different.
And these aren't expensive. These are just hydromatic, like I should say just, like, these are not flight pumps that are, Cadillacs, like these hydromatics are, I mean, they're good, but they're not expensive pumps.
Well, the last 20 years, you have to.
They are good pumps, but the impeller, it would scare you to look at the impeller. Not usually, and they're not gonna give us the spare pump to,
No, it's like,
we're friends, but we're not that good at friends. Absolutely. Pray to the water gods.
So you're saying 6 to 8 weeks to rebuild, 12 to 15 for new. My opinion, now I'm very bold. I think administration needs to jump on that ASAP, get that thing rebuilt. If there's money in that budget, look at that in very small. Because if you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks, we're into March. Weather's gonna change, it's gonna get warm. Fundy's busy all year round. What I do.
I wouldn't want to go through a summer season with just one pump in both of those stations.
May I interject, I believe, Fundy National Park was actually doing a study on the flow that's going up, that they believe that the cost should be more higher to them as they have more than the village does, so. And I don't know if you've ever. It's easier to bring it. Yeah, so yes, they did put a meter in single one.
The second question is if I may, on wastewater and water system. No. To do business that is operating. Have we been monitoring how much water flow is going in that? And
Yeah.
and
So that is now going to be taken once a month. It was taken in December, and you're due to take it again this week.
once every month. At the operational end.
They are in a testing phase of their operations. So the last time we spoke to Pisani in December, he's just doing small amounts, just testing the systems out. It's not in full production now.
So far, nothing's raised the eyebrow.
No, the only thing that raised the eyebrows was there was an alert on the system one day, which was identified that we basically just turned on 2 or 3 machines at the same time, which then triggered the higher usage on SCADA. But we soon figured out what it was and went down and had a chat with it.
So you have then no results at the wastewater system from that problem of chemicals being able to not fully in operation.
No. And again,
My question is, when he is fully operational, how many times you going to check that flow meter going into that bill?
so as per the LAU, we'll check that meter once a month. If we identify any anomalies on SCADA or we get high usage alarms on a regular basis, we've got quite a good relationship with him. I can give him a call and just confirm where he is with operations and if he's increased it significantly. And he's well aware of what, the pressures that type of business can put on the system. And he's open to conversations about that if he needs to do his higher levels of work during, over the night rather than first thing in the morning, we can then level off that usage throughout the day rather than him going, right, when everybody's getting out of bed in the morning, let's turn on all the washing machines. So he's aware of that, and he's open to discussion as to shape his operations to benefit us or not benefit us.
My concern is just getting the system up, show that somebody's there watching it, be great for one time. It's definitely like that's why I brought that up.
It would be nice though to have an outside meter reading, so you don't have.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have already got a point for that.
Yeah.
And it's something I've got to.
And that was probably because I spec'd that out and I thought I'd spec the external reader on it, but I guess then I got it just,
So it's not on them.
no, but I did spec it for the capacity, but I didn't.
Just wasn't it.
Yeah.
But I've got a quote for one. I've just got to get one time to look into that a bit more. Like I said, gaining access to the premises isn't an issue. Like I said, I've got quite a relationship with the owner, and he's open to us going down and having a chat. So he's good. Again, in terms of the effluent coming out of there, and the checks on that, I emailed him 2 days ago, just to talk about the payment, set up a payment plan for the, obviously he's paying for the installation of the 2-inch line. And I just highlight the key points off of the MOU about the monthly testing or the monthly flow meter check to allow us to gain access, and remind him of the testing that he needs to be doing at his expense. However, with one of our guys stood there watching him do the testing. So he is well aware of what his
So the
responsibilities are.
flow meter going in is not.
We purchased the actual flow meter going in. He paid for everything to be installed.
There was a council report,
Yeah, no,
and there's an MOU in
Mhm.
place, and all of the details were outlined in there.
But that's why I bring it up on public to hear. I just wanna-
So on the training side, the guys are doing really well. That is just my last point, because I know you're in a hurry there. But Caleb is, he's really taking the leadership role there.
Sorry about speaking about individual
Oh,
employees.
sorry.
If it's an HR thing, we would do it in a.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to praise the guys, that's all.
Praise them is good.
Praising them, that's all I want to do. I apologize for that, sorry. I apologize. I just wanted to praise them. Okay, we're off now. Yeah, because I only reported for December. I'll tell you, meet you in February and we'll talk on January stuff. I keep things. No, Beaumont well is off. Just to give you a heads up, Beaumont is off because we're able now to supply water through the Albert mines. And that's just because of the weather conditions are favorable for a Goody well. And Goody is groundwater under the direct influence. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Just one point to add on the water and wastewater. We have submitted the wastewater annual reports now for 2023 and 2024. That's actually gone in early. When we've looked through them, obviously there was a number of things went on last year with different people moving on, disruption and that, the amalgamation. So there were a lot of gaps in the reports to when we should have had testing done. However, the initial feedback from Department of Environment, they're content with what we sent them. However, I'm working with Heather to get a good sampling plan put in place. And next year, when we send the reports, we are giving them everything they need. Plus, now what we're currently looking at is aligning all three wastewater works. So we are doing consistent reporting on all three. So we can tell differences in that. So we're making some headway on that. But we've got the reporting in early, which is really good. I believe there's more drinking water reports are due in about March. So hopefully have something to say about that on the next meeting. Perfect. Just going to the public works. The public works team continues to deliver the service across Fundy Albert, managing the rented spaces and maintenance of them and that. Snow removal. Obviously, we had the snow removal policy come in on the last meeting, which was great. We were doing really, really well over the last day or two. As Mother Nature just obviously doesn't like me, always snows on a Saturday or a Sunday, ready for the guys to collect garbage on a Monday, so it disrupts it. But we were doing really, really well until the tractor dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. So we are now down to one bobcat clearing the snow through the unit. One is away getting fixed, due to be returned very soon, and hopefully the issue with the tractor we've identified today can be fixed very quickly. But we are moving forward with that. And as was mentioned in the last meeting about moving forward with snow removal stuff, what cost contracts to be. I've asked a few informal questions about what would that look like in the future. So when we come to review the policy next year, perhaps we can have some of those discussions and some answers about how we move forward with snow removal in the future to provide best value for the taxpayers' money. Good. 2025 work plan. I am about 98% there on that. Looking at the business as usual tasks, the stuff that we need to do on a day-to-day basis to keep Fundy Albert moving. As I'm about 98% there. We just need to then fix a date once we are 100% complete to present that to council, so we can share with you exactly what it is the team are doing on a day-to-day basis, different times of the year to keep Fundy Albert, the way it is. And that hopefully will lead to some other discussions that create some productive thoughts going on there. What we're going to start working on now is the 2025 project plan. I currently have a list of, I think, 30 projects so far, which is far, far more than what we'll actually be able to achieve with the budgets and everything we've got. However, my plan is to put that all together and again, find the time to present that to council to give you a good description of what each project is, a rough order of what they're going to cost, how they hit the strategic priorities, and then have a scoring system there so we can sit in here or wherever and score each project. And that helps us prioritize them to say whether it's done, this one's done immediately, or this one is one that we can push back 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And that will really tie into the asset management plan as well, and really help us start getting a 5 to 10 year plan in place for advancing Fundy Albert. But there will be a lot of work involved with that. So look forward to that one. Waste collection. Eco360, you've done a lot of work pushing this out on radio advertising, newspapers. We've got some stuff off them as well, put it out on Buoyant Alert. So everything that is possible has been done to inform people that the garbage collection is changing as of February 3rd to a contracted one or a new contract. The key change is going to be it's getting done on a Friday. I still need to reach out to Eco360 because I've seen the comments on Facebook where when you go on the app, a lot of Fundy Albert is still Thursday. So there's a bit of confusion there, but I think we are still really trying to push that. It's Friday as much as possible. And it's good to see that there are a lot of residents phoning into the office for confirmation, and everybody's informed, and we can pass that message efficiently when people do call in. That's enough about that. So going on to projects, Ward 1, the Almond project, phase 1 and 2 still continues. There's still the discussions going on with the landowners in terms of MOUs and all that. And we've had revised booster station plans to present as well. So the plan is now with Englo to organise a meeting with those landowners down in our to discuss with them. These are your options. These are the timelines that we need to go by to help that project continue moving forward and have no delays. Again, Anglo is still coordinating to have an Aboriginal monitor. They've applied for everything, and they're trying to organise a meeting. They've just not got back to them. As soon as we get that meeting in place, I'm going to try and sit on that, just get an understanding of it. They are just waiting out the meeting on that. And the final one is, you've requested an update about the project. What Anglo said at the moment, there's no massive change. There's not much to report to what has been originally reported at the start of the project about what it's going to be. Once, this contract, once they presented their work plan for the project with timelines, dates, and milestones, that would be the ideal opportunity to come in and present to council and the community where the project is, where it's going, and when people would expect to see different things. So we're just waiting on contract now to submit that as a project plan for that. That's in Alma.
Why does it say project cost of 506,000? What's that? What's that project cost? Is it, that number seems, it's not 12.2 million bucks. What's
Various phases of, I didn't put the number in, but it's various phases of the project.
Next time I speak to Anglo, I'll get a list of actually what's been spent on the project so far, because that probably should have taken that. It's been there for quite a while. It's right and up to date, so we'll get an updated what payments we've got on that project. With Water 2 with Riverside Albert, we've already spoken about the water filtration project and how we're now trying to find out more funding to finish off those last elements to make it a really good system.
Well, it's not a really good system. Well, no, I'm being honest.
It's to give us those elements to really make sure that we've got what we really need to make that work. They're not gold lined, are they?
No.
No, good. The Hillsborough War exploration, that's still moving along. Anglo doing a lot of like desktop work on that. I've still got to sit down with the landowner to really look at the lease. I've been in touch with former Mayor Roshan, who did a lot of negotiations before. So I'll be sitting down with him to just do that handover with the landowner and the negotiations on that lease.
And now is the time to get that done. Water exploration, and this time of the year, get everything done, because you want to go into the dry season drilling. And then you'll know what you've got for a yield on your well. So whatever you can do to get it done now, get it so we can get ready to rock and roll.
Obviously, I've left on there the provision to be signed. I believe that was done. I'm just going to make sure Anglo received that. And something that, just to make you aware of, Plan 360, this isn't on the council report one, but Plan 360 have approached us to comment on a developer's wanting to put in a 16-unit apartment complex up by on Salem Road. They've asked us to comment on that in terms of utilities, water, sewage, drainage plans, and other infrastructure on that. So that's just a heads up on that one. I'm going to sit down with Anglo and discuss with them. Because we've got to do a bit of analysis here, because obviously HMI is at 5 units. We're concerned it's a struggle. 16 units here is absolutely development we probably want. However, we've got to do that analysis to make sure we can handle it and where we need to go before we do really say yes. But I've got a meeting with Anglo to sit down and discuss, rather than just looking at this individual project. Can we do this? Let's ask a better question to better understand the capacity of Hillsborough rather than a field outside Stadium Road. But like I said, on the next committee, I'll provide a lot more detail on that and where we're going with it. Just want to keep in your head. The Greybrook project still moving along. I've not had no real updates from them, so they should be tendering that in the spring. All the agreements in place for landowners, and I'm aware that we are awaiting payment for some of the land transfers that happened from Fundy Albert. I think the project manager was just waiting for a couple of other things to fall in place, or he came down to meet with us and bring the checks out. So I hope we'll see something from that soon. Pound Hill, the senior project manager on that has got back to me today actually for a meeting tomorrow morning to discuss that. about what practical solutions there are to deal with the transition from the old to the new, and where we stand with that. So again, hopefully in either the
Old
next,
to the new, meaning,
as in where they could
Out Hill.
resurface
oh,
it to.
no, okay, sorry, I thought you were on the golf club road there.
No, no, we've got club.
Yeah, the transition down here.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm in a meeting tomorrow about
Yeah, good,
that.
good.
So hopefully I'll have some feedback. Probably I'll make comments
Yeah,
on that
good.
next council meeting if you want to get up to the whole. Comments on Golf Club Road or something. Yep, so I have got comments on Golf Club Road. Chatting to our like Englobe on the monthly updates. Again, we're still waiting for those financials, are we, for that to get 100% approved. Once we've got that tick in the box, we believe it's the right thing to do to bring the contractor in, sit down again and just review their, you know, their terms there and to make sure everything's still good to go, because it has been a long period since they submit that tender, and especially with the political situation at the moment, there may be significantly different costs involved, which I'd much rather be aware about than just tell them to go ahead and see if they go at the end. So like I said, as soon as we know we've got that group, we can move ahead, we'll speak to the contractor and make sure everything is still where it needs to be.
Was there a deadline in that contract? Was there a
tender?
Yeah,
We never really
tenders can only do it for
Yeah.
so long.
Tender, but I believe the comments coming back from our engineers was that it's still valid. It would just be a good idea to revisit it terms before you go forward.
Just to make sure that everything still is right. But yeah, that's planned. We're just waiting for the financials to be returned. And there was a comment here about the proponent response period status is now open for the Greensboro subdivision wastewater system.
That's just a statement back from them. So they're still collecting their comments and review of the system. So it's just to keep.
Still, any questions on any of that?
Thank you. So very.
There's a lot.
So I am mindful of time because there's still quite a bit to do. It's 7:11. We're pushing on to the 3-hour mark. Now is on the agenda is the council's statement and inquiries. I would encourage us to keep it short and sweet, unless, you know, obviously if there's something important you need to say, please say it. Instead of even going around the table, does anybody have anything compelling that they need to speak to?
We just got a couple of quick things. January 15th, I accepted the Verizon Health Network invitation to the Albert County Health and Mo. There was, met the student nurses who were in place in Albert County, and he's got a pretty good plan. On January 22nd, I will attend a seminar on the community needs on climate changes. On February 13th at 1 o'clock on Teams, there's a session on cyber security. And on February 28th at 9, there is a meeting at the EMO personnel at 360 building in person at 9 o'clock. That's bringing up the EMO planning
Very
for
good. You're going to that.
registered, yes,
Very good.
that's it. One thing,
Okay, sorry for it. No,
I just want to be sure with he is on the second on the EMO. Is there any conflict, like the acting member of mayor would be leading on the, could we have another person? Or not? I don't think.
It's whatever, I'd have to look at your terms of reference. I'm not sure what it's specified. You should be able to have as many members as you'd like.
Oh, I realize that, yeah, but
Are you looking for a second, like a co-chair? Because you're the chair of that committee. Are you looking for a co-chair?
Not really, just want to make sure that he's not gonna.
Who's he, me?
You, yeah, you,
What's the, I'm not quite.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
that's acting mayor,
yes.
you're not in a conflict of being in voting on that. I don't think there is, but
I'm not sure. Tell you the truth, maybe we need to
no, I know
consult
you're
with our
not,
clerk and, I'm
you're
not,
not a voting member.
oh, I see, because we heard earlier today that the mayor is an ex officio
Oh,
member,
I see what
you
you're
can't vote.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, Ken, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's,
I'm not
I
gonna,
won't need to vote if necessary. That's okay.
Okay.
I won't in any way disturb any agreement you're trying to achieve.
no problem.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so, yes, sir. Councillor John?
Say, for Force Administration. Thank you. Good stuff. Since that, love it, and thank you for your work, what you guys do. Really appreciate it.
Good. Yeah. So that moves us on to item number 9, which is public statements and inquiries. So we
We're down to 2.
kind of,
So as an update, sorry to interrupt you, on Riverside Albert, we've had Wilson sitting down there today. Both the thermostats have been replaced. We believe there may be issues with them. So hopefully next time you go in, please feel free to give me a call. If it's not, hopefully it'll be a bit warmer. Yes,
So I made a couple of calls.
perfect.
One thing I want to say is thank Dale and CTRC on those 2 discussion items forward. So I look forward to the board meeting to see the amount of things that you talk about, like everybody's plate is full. And so for counselors to read through what staff are doing, it's a lot more than what you were signing up for. Grant. So thank you, both to the staff over that, certainly for the counselors.
thank you.
I'm the only, yes, here's all.
No, I just gonna, Linda.
Yeah.
New police with the property. Thank you very much, Cal. Appreciate it, both for Dale and CCRC.
Very good. So I would then accept the motion to go into closed session, item number. Motion so moved by Councillor Lannan. Seconded by Councillor Russell. All those in favor of moving into a closed session, signify by aye. Aye, motion passed unanimously.
Austin, favor of closed session.
I will just do that box in the corner I just had.
I'll look to the clerk here. Our first item basically is the evaporate.
That's a great question. I'm